Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is March 4th, 2025, just 14 days short, 2 weeks short of 5 years of Torah every single day, of finding each other, learning together, lifting each other up. It is an incredible honor to be part of a community that has remained steady and stable and meaningful and loving all this time. Penny and Patricia, it's good to see you. Penny, thank you. It's broadcast 1253. Arlene and Susie, it's good to see you too. Hi, Shush. Debbie and Angela, Cecile, Debbie, Tara, Andrew, Anya, Carl, and Jack. Good to see all of you, friends. I hope that you and yours are safe and well. Chana, Erev Tov to Yerushalayim. My love. Guys, Neshama's here. Now I'm even happier, really. Catherine, good to see you, sending love to Australia. Carolyn and Joyce, Diane and Rose, Rosa and Deborah. Barry, good to see you. Adrian and Stan, Barbara and Linda. Oh, it's really good to see all of you. If I miss anyone, my apologies. The screen is jumping quite a lot right now. Linda and Peter, it's good to see you. Let's take a breath, everybody. Sing a blessing, learn some Torah. Here we go. La 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 la. La 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 Asok b'divrei Torah, asok b'divrei Torah, hafok ba, asok b'divrei Torah. All right, everybody. It is broadcast 1253. It is day 515 since October 7th. We carry all of that in our hearts. We carry all of it with our bodies, with our intention, and the work that we are doing is unceasing. I passed through a huge crowd of my colleagues on the way into the office today to see them about to leave for a site visit to the Brooklyn hub. UJA has opened up around New York several major hubs for social services, including vocational training, including free legal services for survivors of domestic violence, immigrant aid, and education, specifically around food insecurity and self-sufficiency. We are doing amazing work in the world, which of course is not the center of what we talk about these last 515 days. We have been focused on tribal trauma, but we have not stopped or slowed down in our work to be good neighbors and to lift up society. We do so not only for the Jewish community, we do so for our community. We are remaining human in the face of all of this, and we should be incredibly proud of that too. We can be all the things we are called to be a blessing. Let's look at this week's Parsha. Tetzaveh is the only Torah portion after the introduction of Moshe Rabbeinu that does not include his name. And that is not an accident. Tradition has noticed it and pointed to it and tried to derive meaning from the absence of Moshe's name. And think about what that means. The presence, the constant presence of Moshe. Yes, Deborah, there is a center in Queens called Common Point. Look up Common Point and UJA. You will find our hub in Queens. The presence of Moshe seems to really be pervasive. That's why we call it Torat Moshe, the Torah of Moshe, the 5 books of Moses. It is an incredible thing for us to note how present Moshe is, and it makes sense because when he's absent, even for a period of time, it becomes too much. It becomes too much for the people. We depend so deeply on the presence of Moshe Rabbeinu that the absence of Moshe is also noteworthy. The absence of Moshe grabs the attention of commentators, and it should grab the attention of any reader. We are so used to Moshe's presence, we rely on him. The absence of something in the text is also a classic method of learning Torah. When something is absent, we call it a lacuna. Those of us who are familiar with The Lion King, if you're looking for a way of remembering the word lacuna, which means gap in the text, think about Hakuna Matata. You'll remember the word lacuna. And if you didn't before now, now you know. That's a good way of remembering things. Always have a clever mnemonic so you don't forget Latin or Greek. What is the absence here? Moshe is charged with appointing his brother as high priest, but we never hear Moshe's name. And there's something really important here. I'm channeling some teaching from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory here. He points to how Moshe and Aharon in particular demonstrate a real shift between how things were and things are. Meaning, in the book of Breshit, the book of Genesis, the rivalry between brothers is intense, unceasing, and it upends the possibility of generational continuity. It, of course, does move the story forward to see how Yishmael and Yitzchak can't possibly coexist in the eyes of Sarah, and how after that Esav and Yaakov can't possibly exist in the same place when there's a limited amount of love shown and the claim to a birthright can only include one. And the favoritism that Yaakov then shows Yosef just keeps the story moving forward until we get to the point, eventually, where Moshe is born. And yes, there is a point in the book of Numbers where Moshe, Miriam, and Aaron are struggling, or at least Aaron and Miriam are, with Moshe's centrality. But at a certain point, Moshe says, I don't want this. I don't want this job. I don't want this work. Send somebody else. That's the beginning of Exodus. And God says, Aaron's already on his way. And how complicated it must be, given all the context that I've just shared, for Aaron to see the rise of Moshe, his younger brother, and how complicated in turn it must be for Moshe to appoint Aaron as high priest, except it doesn't seem to ever be difficult for them to not be each other. There's a kind of magnanimous leadership that's modeled between the two of them. It's not easy to be the leaders they are, but we do not see rivalry in terms of their positions. Moshe wields Keter Torah, the prophetic power, and also the power of law. But Aaron wields Keter Kehuna, the crown of priesthood, of religious leadership. Even though it's not quite the way we see things today in the world, it is very powerful to see these two brothers coexist. And in fact, the absence of Moshe here is understood by many commentators as a profound act of humility. How important it is, friends, for leaders to show their humility and not think that they are the only place for power and decisions to be wielded. Good leaders, by which I don't mean leadership as a clinical practice. You can have leaders who are effective, who are evil. Great books about leadership have been written that include horrible figures from history who mobilized large groups to do bad things. That might be, quote, successful leadership, but good leaders, in the way that I think we mean good leaders, manifest a kind of humility, manifest a kind of magnanimous leadership skills. Rabbi Sachs points to Abraham Lincoln and says, look at the power. Look at the power of Abraham Lincoln to bring into his cabinet three of his rivals for the presidency. Doris Goodwin, a famous historian of presidents, wrote the book about this called A Cabinet of Rivals, or A Team of Rivals. It is a beautiful and complicated thing to wield power, and to do so not always standing in front. I remember interviewing for the senior rabbi position in Berkeley, California, where I ended up serving a community for 11 years. And one of the reasons I fell so in love with that community was a question I was asked during the process. They said to me, when do you need to stand in the limelight and when do you not? And I was at a point in my rabbinic life and in my life where that was a new question for me. And I appreciated the self-reflection that it generated. Because in truth, a community, a nation, a world must be more than one member, one leader. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe is present, but he's not present. His leadership is pervasive, but his name is absent for this one Torah portion, except 3 times or 4 times in this parsha, we hear the word ve'ata, and you, which means Moshe's there, but he's not there. For Aaron to take his role, there needs to be space given. What an important motif for us to consider, that the role of the leader is to make sure that the mission is fulfilled. It's not that the role of the leader is to always be the one fulfilling the mission. Of course, Aharon's success reflects well on Moshe, his brother. But that doesn't seem to be why Moshe does what he does. The text says about Moshe that he was the most humble of all leaders. What a beautiful thing it is to see how present Moshe is, and then how absent he is when it is his brother's turn. I think that in this moment of our history, it is an important value for us to remember that as we exercise leadership, and all of us do, because as Howard Gardner translates the work of a leader, it is to influence another, which means we are called to see ourselves as leaders, but to not always think that that means standing in front. Leaders exemplify good values and influence people to do more good. That is our role. That is what we do. That is what we must do. It's not that this is a moment in history unlike any other, even though for us it really does feel that way. There have been dark moments of human history, dark moments of Jewish history, dark moments of global history. We are not the first to encounter harshness, but we must take our places in history to cultivate kindness and humility, to be that kind of mindful leader ourselves. I invite you, friends, to think about how you exemplify humble leadership, thoughtful leadership, what it is to see the absence of Moshe's name as the presence of his beauty, and to try to live up to something like that, to make sure that more good is done, even if no one ever knows that you're the one who did it. It is a beautiful thing to remember, as Rabbi Sachs taught in a beautiful comment on this week's Parsha, the smaller the ego, the greater the leader. Let's try. As we fight as we must on this 515th day since October 7th, as we fight as we must in a world that is not currently rewarding kindness, as we fight to remain kind and human, to follow through with the rabbis telling us, B'makom she'ein anashim hishtadel liot ish. In a place where people are not being human, be human. Remember, Minna, I hear you. I am saying, remember what it is to be a humble leader. We cannot look outside of ourselves for the answer to that. We must, friends, We must, and we can. Because even where Moshe isn't present, he is. In our world, Moshe is not present, but maybe he is, through us. One of the ways that we show up as human friends is we remember to send our hearts where they are needed. That can be to a social services hub in Brooklyn or in Queens. It can be to the Campus for the Arts that UJA built in Jerusalem to support our community's ability to support itself. It can be in the way that we have supported the Hostages and Missing Families Forum for 515 days. It can also be the gentle love that you show yourself right now. Saying to yourself, I would encourage you to think about these words. I am a leader. I can make a difference. Moshe can be my role model. I can do good and help others do good. I can show less jealousy when someone else succeeds. I can take great honor in the beauty other people show each other. I am part of this great tradition. Send your hearts to the east, my friends. Kol hod balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homiya ulefateh mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון Yerushalayim. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends. Take good care.